Good morning, everybody, and welcome to PSG of Mercer County on this fine February morning. The Professional Service Group of Mercer County is a group that is here for you, anybody in a career transition. And so I'd like to, of course, say Happy Aloha Friday. And so we always celebrate Aloha Friday. If you were on the call a little bit earlier, we were talking a little bit about that as well, the origin from Hawaii, but it's Casual Friday in Hawaii, and why can't it be Casual Friday for us? So today is another Happy Aloha Friday. And I'm wearing my red, or one of my red Hawaiian shirts. I looked in my closet, I have 3 red Hawaiian shirts. Last week I wore a red Hawaiian shirt to celebrate Women's Health Day. But today is the first day of the Chinese Lunar New Year. So for those who will be celebrating, have a happy Chinese Lunar New Year. And a lucky color, and that people wear when they celebrate, is red. So I thought I would participate that way as well, wearing my red Hawaiian shirt. And this is now the beginning of the Year of the Ox, the Year of the Ox. And so obviously you were not born in this year because we don't have newborns on our program. But the Chinese zodiac does rotate through 12 different signs every 12 years. So prior years of the ox would have been 1949, 1961, 1973, 1985. So if you were born in the year of the ox, you are considered strong, reliable, fair, conscientious, and inspiring confidence in others. So all good traits if you were born in the year of the ox. So Professional Service Group, of course, is here for anybody in any career transition. We, of course, are here to help you. It doesn't matter why you were in a career transition. What happened to me twice was my former employers made their own decision to reorganize. I got impacted. That's a very common way of falling into a career transition. Maybe you took a personal break or a professional break on your own, and that's fine. You're looking to get back into the job market. It doesn't matter why you took a break. It could also be that you've decided you're going to go in a completely different direction and you needed the time to focus on that. And so that's also a good reason to come visit our group, because we're here to provide resources, information, education, as much as we can to help you become more efficient and more effective in your own job search. We do have a LinkedIn group. You are welcome to join it. We encourage you to join it. Our name of our LinkedIn group is PSG of Mercer County. And so just go into LinkedIn, click the groups button, search for our group if you're not yet a member. And then when the group opens, there is a button on that, join group or join something like that, join us, click that button. Now, when you first join and press that button, we will put you in pending status. We don't automatically accept everybody. The reason why is we only accept you, only people in a career transition. So we have that kind of gatekeeper there just to keep anyone who is wanting to join just for their own personal reasons or collecting lists or collecting names. We want this to be only a group for people who are interested for themselves and helping each other in a job search. We have over 1,600 members. I think it's 1,650 right now. They're all people that have been either to our virtual groups that we've been holding for a year now, or our in-person groups before that. And we encourage you to share information, be active in the group. Maybe share an article of interest that you recently read, something about your industry or the marketplace in general. Maybe you've got some good job leads. They don't really pertain to you, but you'd like to share it with your participants in our group, so you're welcome to do that as well. So please consider joining our group. And also what's nice with groups, not just ours, but all groups in LinkedIn, is all the members of the groups now extend for you your first degree connections. Doesn't matter how many first degree connections you have, whether you've got a few or a lot, you can extend those first degree connections. The benefit of a first degree connection, it's somebody who you can email in LinkedIn, they call those in-mails, and you can email your first degree connections and anyone you're connected in the group. So as you're doing your research about a company or about people in the organization, you may find that even if you don't have a first degree connection, you may have a connection through the group, and then you can contact those people accordingly. We do have a website. It is psgofmercercounty.org, psgofmercercounty.org, and we encourage you to go visit it at your leisure. We have over 120 pages of content, 120 web pages of content, and I've shown little bits and pieces over the past few weeks. I won't do so today, but we do have about 20 job postings right now in our open jobs page. So that's a menu item right in the middle of our menu. Plus we have links to 2,600 career pages in our company career pages, also available to the same jobs page. All those are available right there. So you may want to go take a look at that. And of course, our e-learning page as well. We have 54 links to e-learning websites. So if you're looking to learn something new or gain a certification, do any sort of online e-training, you may be able to find a good organization, a good class right from that one page. So we've done all the work of finding the organizations, and you can then find one that's just right for you. So that's in our professional development tab under e-learning. So as I mentioned, in just a moment, I will introduce Mark. He will take over the screen and present his slide deck during his presentation. And I do ask you, keep your microphones on mute. We're just trying again to keep any accidental background noise from coming through. We are recording this presentation, so it will be posted this evening or tomorrow morning on our YouTube channel. You can search for us on YouTube, or we have a link and a YouTube icon right on our PSG website. Just about all of our programs since March 20th of last year, I think, March 13th to 20th. So I think 2 of them are not recorded. Everything else is. So you are able to go back and look at that. So we will be putting our video up there soon. And if there is some accidental loud noise or big interruption, the nice thing with video is I can just cut that out so it's not interrupting during the video presentation. You'll be able to watch that mostly noise free, at least from the video. Okay, so looks like we are all in good shape. And so I'm just very pleased to say this morning, we are pleased to welcome Mark Beal. For more than 25 years, Mark has served as a public relations practitioner and marketer at one of the nation's leading consumer public relations agencies. Mark led the strategic development and execution of award-winning campaigns for such leading companies and brands as Coca Cola, Capital One, GlaxoSmithKline, Nestle's, Purina, Taco Bell, and Adidas. His campaigns have leveraged some of the world's most popular sports and entertainment properties, including the Olympic Games, the FIFA World Cup, the Super Bowl halftime show, and the Rolling Stones. Mark is now a full-time assistant professor of professional practice in public relations in the Rutgers University School of Communication and Information. Mark has authored 5 books, including Career in Transition, 101 Lessons to Achieve Job Search Success, which he co-authored with Frank Kovacs. He's the co-founder and facilitator of the Breakfast Club of New Jersey. And this book is now available on Amazon.com. And it is a wonderful and easy read, 101 lessons. I've got it right here. With an expertise in public relations, marketing, and Gen Z, Mark is regularly invited to deliver keynote speeches. He has delivered more than 100 keynote speeches to audiences as Major League Baseball, the American Marketing Association, Association of National Advertisers, and the New Jersey Digital Marketing Conference. So PSG of Mercer County is very pleased to welcome the very marketable and informative Mark Beal.
David, thank you very, very much. I see that I do have my PowerPoint up there, but it looks like it's not in presentation mode. So don't take offense to that. I'm not gonna waste time here and try to switch my 3 monitors, but hopefully you can at least see the cover slide there. So I see a lot of familiar faces today, and so what I'll try to do is change things up a little bit, because for those who've heard me speak before, you've heard my message and you've seen my PowerPoint. So I'll drop in some anecdotal information and some other things that have happened recently, just to again freshen this up and provide some new insights and new information. For those who haven't seen me present or heard me present, there's a reason I have light bulbs on this cover page. My goal throughout this presentation is that you have 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 aha moments, light bulb moments, things that you maybe just didn't consider before, think of a different approach, a different way of going about it, something you can kind of add to your strategic prospecting approach. So that's kind of my reason for the light bulbs. And again, I hope you have many of those light bulb moments throughout this presentation, even if you have heard me present. So, as David talked about, when I'm not collaborating with this great group, or I'm not collaborating with the Breakfast Club of New Jersey, or so many of the other great career networking organizations throughout our region, I do have another life. I spent 30 years in marketing and public relations. I still consult with some major corporations on that front. And during that time, I was creating and executing, marketing campaigns that were intended to engage the target audience. So everything I talk about today is really focused around that idea of, who is the target audience? Who is your target audience? Who are those prospects? And how do we go about engaging them in the most effective way? Separately from that, as David said, I started teaching as an adjunct professor at Rutgers University in 2013, and only in the past year and a half did they ask me to become a full-time professor, which I was honored to take on that role. But along the way, especially in 2017, 18, and 19, I really became immersed and embedded with this group that we call Generation Z, anyone who was born between 1997 and 2012. I don't think we have any Gen Zers with us today, but this generation, who the oldest of which are just graduating college in the past year or two or three and starting their careers and getting their first jobs, inspires me each and every day. So anecdotally, I will tell you that especially the members of the class of 2020 who graduated right at the peak of the pandemic, I will tell all of you that I have in the past 6 weeks have collaborated with more members of 2020 who did not get a job, did not secure a job in May, June, July, August, September, October, November, December. And in the past 6 weeks since January 1, I have collaborated with more Gen Zers who have secured their first job, whether in marketing, advertising, public relations, or some other field, than I did in the previous 6, 7, 8 months. So I call that positive momentum, optimism, all those things. Every single day, just about over the past 6 weeks, I've gotten an email or a call from someone who has been frustrated and anxious and upset that they have not secured a job since they graduated in May. And I can understand that, right? We graduate from college and we hope that we either have the job before we graduate or as we graduate or shortly thereafter. But this pandemic has really, as we all know, has changed that. And so again, for those who are currently in transition, for those who are currently looking and prospecting for that next opportunity, I just want to leave you with that, again, optimism and that hope and that positive energy and that positive momentum, because it is happening. I'm seeing it every single day. Now, these may be younger executives, these may be folks who are just out of college, these may be entry level, but still, there have been more that have been hired since January 1 in the past 6 weeks than the previous 6 months. So again, hopefully that is inspiring to some out there who are in this transition. This week, this is my 5th speech this week, and again, for those who've heard me speak, I thought I'd throw a little bit of this in there just to change things up. This is my 5th speech this week. I presented to 500 NCAA Division I athletic directors and their staffs, who all comprise what's called the Power Five. So it's the Big Ten, the SEC, the ACC. Earlier this week, and the topic of that was how do we effectively engage Gen Z? So again, not necessarily relevant for today. I presented to 150 executives at Madison Square Garden on exactly that. How do we effectively engage Generation Z? I presented to senior executives at Gannett, owners of USA Today and many other media companies across the country on exactly the same topic. How do we effectively engage Generation Z? But on Wednesday night, I presented to Generation Z. I assembled a panel that included myself, executive recruiters who run or operate their own executive recruiting agency, which again is relevant for today, recruiters on the HR side of companies, and one 30-something executive, someone who's been in the business 12, 13, 14, 15 years in marketing, advertising, and public relations, research, market research, who was in transition and just secured, starting I think the second week of January, her next role with one of the world's top 10 largest integrated marketing agencies. And I thought it was a great panel to have because we got the perspective of the recruiter, the executive recruiter, who again has a focus on certain industries, the recruiter from the HR side of things, from the employer side of things, and someone who had just gone through this process and had experienced a transition and experienced securing their next job. And so basically, the point of telling you all that is what I'm about to present, whether you've heard it before or not, was reinforced in this meeting over and over and over again, not by me, but by the external recruiter, the internal recruiter, and the person who just went through the transition. I was purely just the host of this panel. They did all the talking. So again, as I go through some of these slides, even if you've heard them before, you know, that was right from the horse's mouth, so to speak. 3 individuals who all play an interesting and critical role in transitioning, including someone who just made the transition from being out of work to now is in a senior market research position with a global agency, reinforcing and talking about all the things I'm going to talk about now, even though I didn't bring them up on my own. These were things that they were suggesting to the next class of college graduates who, as of today on February 12th, are starting to apply for jobs, starting to network, starting to prospect, starting to identify their targets. So I just wanted to bring that up again as kind of a new element that normally I wouldn't get into in discussing. So as those of you who've heard me speak before, this is just a message that I deliver over and over and over. For those who haven't, whether you're in IT, an accountant, operations, project management, whatever it might be, you during this transition, you during your search, you during your prospecting and targeting, have to think and act like a marketer. Whether you've done no marketing in your life or not, it doesn't matter. You have to market yourself. You have to market your experiences. You have to market your successes. You have to market to your network. You have to market to your prospects and targets, which I always hear come up on these sessions when I present to groups like this. I love when individuals do interviews and they talk, when they do their introductions, their elevator pitch, and they say, these are my targets, these are my prospects. Well, at the end of the day, I always correlate that to what I did in marketing for many, many years. I led new business for my agency. And my agency was not the biggest agency. It wasn't the best agency. It was not we didn't have thousands of employees. We had hundreds, if that. But we still wanted to go in and get business from Coca Cola, from Nike, from Bristol Myers, from Procter & Gamble, from Amazon. And in order to do that, we had to market our agents. We had to market our services. We had to market the value we could bring to drive business impact with these companies. It's the exact same thing that every single one of us who's in a transition has to do. Every single thing you do, whether you've thought about it this way or not prior to today, is marketing. Every time you post on LinkedIn is marketing. Every time you share thought leadership content or you write a blog post is marketing. Every time you come to a meeting like this, which by the way, I love these meetings, is marketing. You are putting yourself out there. You are meeting individuals. You are hoping to make connections that could lead to a call, an interview, another opportunity, right? It's all marketing. So maybe you haven't called it that, but that's what it is at the end of the day. So that's really what my message is to everybody today. No matter what industry or profession you're in, you do have to focus on marketing you, your brand, your narrative, your experiences, and mobilize your network at the same time doing that. So I say that, and I like to use this image here. If you can see the image of the young man here getting ready for a job interview, looking in the mirror. I say this because while we have this incredible army, in fact, we have this incredible army of 84 plus people today on the call today, who are all part of your army. I believe that truly. Whether you're new to this, whether this is the first time you've joined this meeting, everyone on this call is part of your army. They're here to help you. They're here to make those connections for you. But at the end of the day, every morning, every night, there's only one person that you're looking at in the mirror, and that's you. Nobody else, right? You've got lots of people out there who want to help you. You've got lots of people who want to join your army. But at the end of the day, and at the beginning of each day, it's you who decides how you're going to do it, how you're going to proceed. It's you who decides whether you're going to join this Friday meeting and network and make connections, right? Nobody else. No one else can make those decisions for you. No one else can make decisions on how proactive you're going to be in marketing yourself. No one else can make decisions on how proactive you're going to be in strategically identifying prospects and targeting them and making connections. At the end of the day, no matter how much support you have, no matter how big your army is, no matter how many people are in your network, you still have to make those decisions because you are, in fact, the chief marketing officer of your transition. Nobody else is. People like Alex will help you as much as you need. People like David will help you as much as you need and want. But at the end of the day, you're calling all the shots, just like a CMO would. You're making those decisions about what you're going to do today after this meeting to continue marketing yourself. So again, it's just a mindset. It's just an approach. And again, some of us may just never think of it that way. But if you can think of it that way, right? And it's not all big stuff. I'm not talking about going out and buying a $5.5 million Super Bowl commercial to market yourself. We're talking about all the little things, the baby steps, the LinkedIn posts, the sharing of content, the producing of content, the making the connections, all those kinds of things. And so I just added this, even though it's, it was written during the height of the pandemic, but it's all about marketing yourself in that job search, right? I'm not going to read the whole thing, but Madeline here writes exactly kind of what I continue to preach. Here's the harsh reality. For any job posted, many candidates will apply. We know this, right? We all know this. That's not new. Some of these candidates will be less qualified than you are, but others will be just qualified or even more so. Selling yourself, and I'm going to change that word to marketing yourself, can feel real uncomfortable. Absolutely it can. For someone who's new, who joined today's meeting, I bet you right now you're feeling real uncomfortable, right? I've got to make an elevator pitch. I've got to introduce myself. Of course it's uncomfortable. We're all uncomfortable doing it. But it is essential. If you don't point out your best qualities as a candidate, who is going to do it for you, right? So to get past any feelings of shyness, modesty, discomfort, think like a marketer. Develop your own customized, personalized marketing and sales campaign for your job search. Exactly as if it is one of the many two-page options. Bottom line is, this reinforces everything I talk about. Your job search is unique to you. It is the only job search going on in the world. It is your job search. It's unique because it's about you. It's about your unique past experiences. It's about your unique network and all the people who belong to it. So it's unique to you. Well, no matter how much assistance and help you get from meetings today, of which you get lots, because I've attended many of these meetings, and every time I leave here, every time I leave a session like this, I am so inspired. I'm walking on clouds when I leave, because between all the people, both new and those who've been before, you inspire me so much. But this is your search. This is your transition. And so the idea here is that you dictate how, as Madeline says here, you dictate how you're going to market yourself. You dictate also how much you're going to market yourself, how proactive you're going to be, how strategic you're going to be, how creative you're going to be, how much you're going to push it a little bit, right? So I thought this was important. I just happened to uncover this article, even though it was from several months ago, but it really captures everything that I've talked about in the past and everything I'm going to talk about today. And I think she raises something here too. Despite shyness or modesty or discomfort, we've all got discomfort when we're in a transition. Every single one of us. We've got discomfort in reaching out to our network and saying, hey, do you know someone at this company, right? We've all got that. We've also, as I like to say, we all like to put our egos at the door. And I do believe that. I think every one of us is modest. And what I mean by that is, because we achieved something in our career, a great success, a successful campaign, measurable results, we sometimes like, well, I just did this or I just did that. No, those are major milestones, major pieces of your narrative. Don't be shy and modest to when it comes to what you and your team has done in the past. Those are the things that you need to, so to speak, dial up. So don't be modest. Again, we all like to put our egos at the door. We're all very modest. But as it says here, there will be candidates less qualified for you. But if they can market themselves better, more smartly, strategically, more creatively, more aggressively, more proactively, well, they may end up with that job. All because it came down to marketing them, their brand, and their narrative. So when we think and act like a marketer, and I've used these examples before, but they're more relevant than ever this week than before, right? That guy on the left just won his 7th Super Bowl. He is a quarterback. But if you read about Tom Brady, he's always marketing his brand, his TB brand, right? Quarterback is just one thing he does. He's a dad. He's a husband. He's a health guru. He's an owner of content. He's owner of a content company, in fact, that just did a major deal yesterday, right? Serena Williams currently playing in the Australian Open right now. I've worked with Serena ever since she was about 16 years old, right? She's a mom. She's a wife. She's a great tennis player. She's a champion. But she also has many, many, many other interests, right? And what does she say there? I work on my brand all day from my computer. She doesn't say I work on my tennis all day from my computer. She works on her brand all day. So while none of us in this room may have won 7 Super Bowls like Tom Brady, or won as many Grand Slams as Serena Williams, or won as many NBA championships as LeBron James, or sold as many records as Beyonce, we all are brands just like they are. You all are. Hopefully that's a light bulb for some of you. You are a brand just like they are. You've got your brand, and you've got all the unique elements and aspects of your personal brand. And that's what's got to come through in your marketing, your content, your prospecting, your networking. So hopefully that's helpful. Each and every one of us is a brand, but like Tom and like Serena and like LeBron, they have taken control of their brand. Sure, do they have agents? Yes, they do. In fact, I know Serena's agent very well, Jill Smoller. I've worked with her for 25 years. But at the end of the day, it's the individual who is being proactive in marketing their brand, the individual who's determining where they want to take their brand to. So I'm going to take you through a couple of steps here. Again, some of this, well, all of it's logical. Some of it you've heard, but maybe again, it just puts it in a slightly different perspective for you, right? So first and foremost, now that we all are hopefully are aligned that we all have our own brand, a brand like Tom Brady, a brand like Serena, a brand like Apple, a brand like Nike. Yes, we do. Every one of us, every single one of us. And everything we do is reflective of that brand. Every time you post something on Facebook, whether it's social or professional, it's reflective of your brand. It truly is. All right. So now that we all understand that we are a brand, we have a brand. If we haven't done this already, we just need to take a little bit of time to, well, where do we want to take our brand, right? What is our brand vision? What are our aspirations? Where do we want to leverage all that past experience and success? Where do we want to go in the next chapter, right? And what is success for our brand? Meaning, what is the next thing that we feel is success for us and our brand? The next position, the next opportunity, all those kinds of things, right? Now, part of this brand vision, like I said, is things like past experiences, all those things, but it's also, what makes you as well, right? It's, you may now start, maybe you're having a shift now in your mindset. Maybe your brand is going to be more about nonprofit and community-based and giving back. Because you want to now, at this point in your career, you want to actually do something that you leverage your past experiences, but you want to do it for good or for community. Well, that's a brand, that's part of your brand vision, okay? So just give thought to that. Realize that you are a brand, and now you want to think, where do I want to take my brand now over the next year or 2 or 3, based on where I've been over the past 10, 15, 20, 25, or 30, okay? We've all heard of SMART goals, and usually we apply these goals to when we're on the job and we're working on a program or working on projects, and especially if we've got an employer who's got a very well laid out kind of a employee evaluation system for consideration for promotions and raises, right? Every year, every 6 months, every 3 months, while we're working, we should be laying out SMART goals, right? Very specific, highly measurable, achievable, relevant or realistic, and time bound. Well, I think we should do the same for us and our brand and our vision now as we're in this transition, right? What are those SMART goals? What do we want to achieve? Because again, and I've heard Alex and others say this, If your only goal right now, is I want to secure that job at that place, whatever that place is, well, boy, you need a bunch of mini SMART goals to get there. Because if that's the only thing that's sitting on the big chart in your room every day, you're not going to achieve success until you actually achieve that. But there are many measures of success along the way, right? I'll throw out a simple one that I tell my students all the time. Right now, I've got a bunch of students graduating in May. And they want to get into marketing, maybe in music or in entertainment or in sports or in fashion or in food, whatever it might be. And so right around December 31st, January 1, I emailed just about all of my seniors, of which there's well over 100. And I said, starting today, starting January 1, you need to detail your SMART goals and you need to review them every single week between now and graduation day. Because if I ask them what's their goal, all of them just say the same thing. I want to get a job by the time I graduate. Well, that's fine. It's not very specific. It's a little bit measurable. You either got the job or you didn't. It's a little bit time bound in that they're saying by graduation. But it's got to be, what I tell them is that's fine, but let's create many, 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 many SMART goals to support that. So real quickly, if I have one of my seniors who wants to secure a job in marketing or communications in the healthcare industry, in the farm industry, because here in New Jersey, as we all know, we live within so many major corporations that are just down the road. Okay, well, here's one SMART goal. Every single week from January 1 through the day I get that job, hopefully around May or June, I'm going to make at least one new relevant connection in the world of healthcare, pharma, marketing, and communications. That's what I would call like a mini SMART goal, because every week I can measure, did I achieve that or not? And if I didn't, well, I need to double up next week and I need to meet two. But it also, as many of the folks on the line will tell you, it for lack of a better word, it forces you and incentivizes you, it motivates you to have those kind of goals every week. So when you wake up on Sunday night, when you're planning the week ahead, it's not, I got to get that job. No, it's like, I got to meet 1 to 2 new people this week. So it's things like that that are all part of, again, this strategic approach to marketing yourself. And so in addition to, we'll call it the big goal, I'm a big believer in having a lot of, for lack of a better word, sub-SMART goals that you can measure on a week to week to week basis, because then you can also measure success. And while your ultimate success may be that, we'll call it that big job, that big opportunity, you need to have success along the way. You need to have opportunities to celebrate along the way, opportunities, so to speak, to kind of pat yourself on the back and say, you know what, I made some really great connections this week. Those connections are going to lead to other connections that are going to lead to other connections that are going to get me in the door to the company that I want to get to. So again, just something to think about. I know a lot of us think about SMART goals when we're working somewhere as part of kind of the employee-employer review process, but I think they're a huge part of currently in transition. So I talked earlier about your personal brand. Well, if you agree with me that you have a brand, just like Tom Brady, just like Serena Williams, if you agree with me, and hopefully I convinced you, well, you need a brand narrative. You need a story to tell. You needed a compelling and engaging story to tell. And in fact, on Wednesday night, when I had the recruiters there, the recruiters were the ones who went full tilt on this idea of storytelling. And I've heard, again, Alex and David and others talk about this. That story has to be developed and created in a way that then you can customize it for everything from the elevator pitch to, as the woman who just got her new job said, in fact, she's the one who brought it up too. She goes, I needed that narrative because as I went through the process of getting this new job that I just secured, she said, you know, it started with a phone call with the recruiter on the outside. That recruiter then said, yeah, I think you're right for this position. Next phone call, not Zoom, phone calls with the recruiter on the inside. Next was individual Zoom sessions with key executives at this company. Next was a 3-hour Zoom panel with people at this company who she'd be working directly with. So over 3 hours, they came and went, you know, 2, 3, 4 at a time left, a couple more showed up. And for 3 hours, she had to extend her narrative. So think of it this way. It went from a 5-second commercial, the elevator pitch, to a 3-hour documentary film and everything in between. And so when I talk about your narrative and your story, it is, as many on the call will tell you, it is, again, that idea of what I call past, present, future. It's those milestone successes, those achievements, those things that you and your team, right? It's always good to express a we achieved, right? It's those things that you achieved in your career and at jobs that sometimes you might say, oh, it was just this, or it was just that. No, it's more than that, especially when you're competing for a job. But it's also some unique things as well. And I know I bring this example up a lot, but I'll bring it up again. Last week I was doing interviews with students to help prepare them for May and for graduation and all that. And I had at least one student, or I think I just had one student, who was a black belt in Taekwondo. And I said to her, that's a unique part of your narrative. That's a unique part of your storytelling. How many other black belts in Taekwondo are going for that marketing job at, I'm making it up, Bristol Myers? You may be the only one. And more importantly, what does a black belt stand for? And I'm sure we have some folks on the call who know this more than I, but when I think of black belt, I think of dedication. I think of focus. I think of commitment. I think of achieving something where you went through the ranks from white belt to black belt. I would love to have a black belt on my team, right? For all those reasons. She first laughed at me and said, no way. And then by the time we got done, she said, wow, I had no idea. That's part of your narrative. That's part of your storytelling. That's part of what makes you unique compared to the other 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100 candidates. So again, because we put our egos at the door, I think a lot of times we don't think of things this way. And so I would just, for lack of a better word, conduct an audit this weekend. It's supposed to snow here in New Jersey, right? So if you've got some time, just conduct an audit and identify, and I'm going to bridge this in a second to messaging when I prepare CEOs for television interviews. Think about career, think about major accomplishments, major milestones. That's one area. Think about, for lack of a better word, your other life outside of career. Things that you've done, unique, different, interesting, whether they're black belt, whether that 7 different languages, whether it's that you are very community involved. Just think of those things, because that's part of your narrative too, right? When I help CEOs and others prepare to go on CNBC and Fox and others, we talk about this idea of what are the 3 main messages that you're going to constantly get across? What are those 3 messages? And we say 3 messages, and many of you may know this because at the end of the day, most people on the receiving end aren't going to remember 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 messages. Luckily, they may not remember 3. But if you can keep hitting them with those 3 messages about your brand, about your experience, about the value you're going to bring to their company, you hit them with that enough in slightly different ways throughout a 30-minute interview, a 1-hour interview, a 3-hour panel interview. That consistent delivering of those messages is going to be reinforced over and over and over and over again, as opposed to trying to spit out what I'll call 10 different messages that will get lost, right? So think about that too as part of your storytelling, your narrative. You have these achievements, you have things inside work, outside work, but think about, if you can, what are those, again, 3 key messages that you are going to reinforce to that individual that, again, are become the key messages of your narrative that you reinforce every time, whether it's a quick 5-minute phone call with a recruiter or whether it's a 1-hour interview. So just give thought to that as part of developing your brand narrative. Next, you should be looking at a chart, hopefully, that says delve into your own media channel. So being on the marketing side, and I'm sure we have some folks on the call today who are marketers as well, so this should be, to them, they'll know this, but when you think about your LinkedIn, when you think about Facebook, when you think about Twitter, when you think about, for those of you like me who are on TikTok, right? Kidding on that one, but for many of those channels, your blog, your website, all those things. In marketing and advertising, we call those your owned media channels. It's part of what we call the PESO model: paid media, earned media, shared media, owned media. So now that you know you're a brand, now that you know you've got to develop your narrative, you really want to leverage that fully through your own media channels. Now, again, most of us are doing this. We probably don't call it our own media channels, but there's a reason I'm saying this here. Two parts on this one. Just like when I work with any brand, Nike, Nestle, doesn't matter. They for lack of a better word, pre-2000, we didn't really have own media channels. Yeah, did we have websites? Yeah, we did, but we didn't have all these channels we have now, just like you and I didn't have all these channels that we have now. So consider yourself as part of your CMO role, your own media strategy to communicate and share and amplify your narrative, right? So LinkedIn is an obvious one, and I know this group talks about LinkedIn a lot, and I'm a big, I share LinkedIn all the time. But also think about any other channels you currently have or that you might create. I know we've talked in the past about things like if you don't have a blog, maybe you should consider having a blog, right? And then again, the whole idea is that a blog post can then go on your LinkedIn page, which then can be amplified on your Facebook channel. It can be amplified on your Twitter channel. So it's really leveraging your owned media, because as we like to say in the business, right? With owned media, I'm not paying for an ad, so I'm not going somewhere and paying to say, hey, I'm this great candidate and I'm the right one for the job. We're not going after earned media. We're not trying to get local newspapers, radio, and TV to have us on air to talk about, I'm in a job search and I'm the best candidate for this job. But this is the one thing from a media perspective you own, you control. That's why we call it owned media. You own these channels. I hate to say it again, but you are the publisher, the editor, the journalist when it comes to these channels, which means, and again, I know there's a lot of folks on the call who do this very effectively, so I'm not many who do it more effectively than I do, but which means you can either produce content, meaning it can be a simple LinkedIn post, about something happening in the world that's relevant to your industry and what you're focused on, and it can be commentary on that. It can be building off an article that you read or saw that, again, is tied into you and your industry, and you can comment on that. So it can be kind of original content. You can also just share thought leadership. You can share articles and share other published content and maybe provide a little bit of commentary on that. So for those that aren't doing it, this is a valuable asset within your marketing portfolio that I would use fully. And again, folks like Alex can tell you, many other channels you could create and areas to explore, but just at its basic, LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, right? Just at its basic before you even think about maybe, hey, I'm going to create my own portfolio or my own website with a portfolio, just the basics. And while I'll make a quick comment on Facebook, while my Gen Zers don't go on Facebook because, as they like to say, well, that's where mom and dad is, and if mom and dad are there, it's not cool. Facebook is not a bad place for those of us in transition to be sharing information, and I have a great example of this, to be sharing information that we are in a transition, not in a way that's, woe is me, I'm out of work, no, but in a way that's just reminding our friends, our family, our network, that I'm seeking, that I'm active. I attended this today. Met with these people. Again, in a balanced way, in a smart way, in kind of a strategically paced way. A social channel like that can do that, and of course, channels like LinkedIn can do that as well. So just be mindful of that. If for some reason you're not leveraging your own media channels as part of you being the CMO of your journey, you want to leverage them, fully. Okay. Now, as I mentioned earlier, when I hear the elevator pitches, I love when people get up and say, my top 3 targets or my top 3 prospects are this, this, and this. I love that because that means they're taking a strategic approach to their transition, right? I like to say this all the time, and maybe it's not correct, but we could all take what I would call the reactive approach is, woke up today, saw 10 jobs, applied, crossed my fingers and hope that the applicant tracking system gets me through and I get interviewed. That is one approach, and that's fine. There's nothing, that's fine. But the flip side of that is what I'll call the proactive approach, right? And that idea, especially in today's world where more and more jobs are becoming remote or virtual. I just had two two 5-6 year marketers who just both live in New Jersey and both took jobs with a San Francisco agency, because the agency, since the pandemic, is now virtual. They've decided, why are we wasting rent on a building that we're never going to go back into? That never would have happened in 2019 or 18, at least with this agency and these candidates. Both these former students of mine are loving this, that they live in New Jersey but work for a really cool tech agency in San Francisco, and they're working from their homes and working remotely. So anyway, based on your industry, based on your experience, based on where you want to take your brand, right? I would say identify as many as 10, 15, 20, maybe 25 targets, prospects, just like I used to do at the agency when I said, we should be getting business with Coca Cola, we should be getting business with Nike. Well, it's not going to happen magically. We need to first identify them, and we then need to figure out how do we get a foot in the door and how do we get in there. So I'm not going to get too hung up on the numbers here. I know I have 25 written here twice, but the idea is to first just take the approach of strategically conducting research, identifying my prospects, and then ranking them, and I'll explain that in a second. I do think there's a point where you get too many and you really don't have enough focus. So even when I was prospecting for my agency, well, we might have had a list of about 20. I was always focused on the first 5 or so. Those were my, what I'll call my hot leads, or my hot prospects. It didn't mean that I was ignoring the other 10 or 15, but those were my hot leads because I wanted to put more effort, more energy into those top 5, which is where ranking comes in. So I like to go through this process, but then I like to rank them. And so I'll give you a quick example. So if you've gone through the process, you've identified the companies, whether 20 minutes from your home or on the West Coast, but now they're hiring virtually. In fact, just a note on that virtual, since the beginning of the year, a good friend of mine has become the head of public relations and marketing for Dollar General, which is based near Nashville, but she lives in Pittsburgh. My other friend just became the head of public relations and corporate partnerships for Hardee's and Carl's Jr., which is also coincidentally based outside of Nashville, and she lives in Miami. So more and more post-pandemic, I'm hearing more and more people who have taken jobs that actually are truly remote and virtual, because again, the pandemic has expedited that. Anyway, we go back to the rankings. So if you've looked at these companies, you've done your research, you said, yeah, here's 5, 10, 15 companies that these are places, and again, it doesn't have to be Bristol Myers, GlaxoSmithKline, and Pfizer. It might be the nonprofits that are located in your county. It might be startup companies that are located in your county or the next county. Either way, when you rank them, this is how I rank them. Number 1 to me on that list of 5, 10, 15 prospects is the company that, one, gets you really excited. You've read a lot about it. You've heard a lot about it. You heard it's a great place to work for. You feel you can bring value to them based on your past experience. But 2, either inside or outside, you've got more connections at that company than any other company on your list. Again, maybe a friend who's a vendor, who's a contractor to them. So he's not necessarily on the inside, but he's doing work with them. Maybe someone who used to work there. They're not there anymore, but they were there a year ago and they left on good terms, right? That's how I start to do my rankings. Because if I all of a sudden got 4 or 5 or 6 or 7 connections with one of these companies I've identified, well, that moves very quickly up, because now all of a sudden I've got more opportunity to leverage those connections for a chance to have a phone call or an interview or whatever with someone on the inside, where I might be able to potentially bypass a formal hiring process, or at least get on the short list of a job that they're trying to fill right now through this process. So again, that's another part of this marketing effort. And I'll wrap up here, guys, with just one more slide. I've said this before, and I know many of you do this. I'm sure people like Alex have a fancier name than job search tool, but I'm a big believer in not only researching, identifying, and ranking your prospects, but then leveraging your network, what I called earlier, your army, to work on your behalf, to mobilize on your behalf, and make a connection with at least one of those 5, 10, 15, 20 companies. So very simply, I just use this format, which is a 1-page format. As I like to say, your resume is great, and your resume really tells me what you've done in the past, especially if I'm in your network. So again, let's just consider I'm in your network and you and I are having a cup of coffee, and you and I meet on a Saturday morning and say, you know what, here, I'm out, I'm looking, here's what I'm doing, here's my resume. And I'll say, this is great, I know where you've been. What I really don't want is this document, because what I want to know is where do you want to go? And where do you want to go in this document in its simplest form is, of course, your basic information, your name, your contact information, all those kinds of things, where you some of your recent experience, but not in a resume way, more in a sub-bullet way. But then more importantly is, where do you want to go, both two parts, title-wise and companies, organizations, whether they be nonprofit, for-profit, doesn't matter to me. Because right away, as soon as I see that, now I know how I can help you as someone in your network. Where with the resume, okay, I understand your past, I get that, but I'm gonna probably leave that coffee session and I'm probably not gonna do much. Not because I don't want to, not because I don't, but I don't have enough information to take the next step. Where if you come to me with the resume and then with this document, which again is a marketing document, we'll call it, and we meet, and you say to me, and I'm just gonna use marketing because I've got background in marketing, you say to me, you know, I've had a good career in marketing. I've been in marketing for 20 years. I had experience on the agency side. I had experience on the brand side. At this point in my career, I really want to go work in-house, and specifically in New Jersey. I actually want to go work for a pharma or healthcare company, because on the agency side, I did a ton of that work. All right, we've just narrowed it down. This is great. And I've already identified 15 pharma healthcare companies in the greater New Jersey area that I think I could really deliver value. Perfect. And these are the kinds of titles I think I'm qualified and looking for. And so now all of a sudden I look at the titles. I don't see a title that says Chief Marketing Officer. So okay, right away I know, all right, this person is not looking to be the CMO of a company, but I'm seeing titles like Marketing Director, Vice President of Marketing, things like that. Okay, now all of a sudden I can leave that coffee meeting even before I leave it and say, I'm looking at your list of 10, 15, 20. I see healthcare, I see pharma. I've got a great contact at Bristol Myers, who's number 2 on your list. I've got a great contact at Pfizer, who's number 3 on your list. I've even got a pretty good contact at Schering-Plough, who's number 6 on your list. I will be in touch with them today. My goal will be to make a marriage between them and you and create a connection for you. That's what comes out of something like this, that comes out of your overall marketing effort, as opposed to if you and I had coffee and you gave me your resume. Like I said, I'd be like, nice resume, but what do I do? How can I help you, right? This is the roadmap for how those in your network can help you. But again, keep in mind that this number 6 is part of this whole process of marketing, branding, personal narrative, research, identification of prospects, and then mobilizing your army. Last slide again, just to tie it all together. We just went through those 6 steps. So if you didn't think about it before, you are a brand. So define your brand, your vision, where you want it to go. What are those SMART goals as it relates to your transition? So a little bit different than when you were employed and you had to create SMART goals for promotion and raise. What is kind of that narrative, which includes those key messages that you can deliver both in a quick 5-minute phone call with a recruiter, but you can also deliver potentially in a 5-hour interview via Zoom with a bunch of executives from that company. Really leverage those owned media channels, LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, blog, podcast, you name it. Determine who your prospects are. If you haven't done that, research and rank your prospects, because this all of a sudden will give you focus, but it'll also give those in your army, your network focus, and then really mobilize your allies to engage those customers, those prospects. And I'm sure we all think of it this way. I'm sure we do. I know my college students don't, probably because they're too young. But to me, our allies are every single person in our solar system. My neighbor, who maybe I only talk to twice a year at the July 4th party and somewhere else, but he works in or she works in this industry, right? My former classmates from college, of which some are actually in the industry I want to go to. My former colleagues at companies I used to work at. Former vendors and contractors who I gave business to when I was in a position to get business, and I made revenue for them, who, oh, by the way, have contracts with this company and that company and those companies that I'm trying to get into. So just think, we didn't go too much into that today, but don't put your blinders on when it comes to your network of followers and your army, so to speak. really think, blow that out a little bit more. Even if it's someone you haven't talked to in a year or 2 or 3, but you had a good relationship, you didn't burn a bridge, they want to help you more than ever during this pandemic. As we come into 2021, I found that people more than ever, especially those who have a job, want to help those who don't, and they want to leverage their resources and help you. Thank you very much. Hopefully a few light bulbs went off and a few aha moments took place, and you got some value out of today. So thank you very much.
Mark, thank you so much. Folks, if you'd like to ask Mark a question, now's certainly a good time to do so. You could just quickly type the word question in chat and we'll get to them in just a moment. You know, it was so funny watching your slides, Mark, early on. You were talking about how, you know, there are many, many people that are applying for any one position, and we know that to be true. And I was thinking that would be a good time to get out your University of Michigan statistics.
Yes.
And so I had them ready, but
thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
At the end, they were there. So folks, if you didn't see or hear that clearly, your odds of getting a job through a job site, which I guess is an online or applicant tracking system, is statistically 1 in 250. And that's a University of Michigan study. That's 0.04%, not 4%, not 0.4%, 0.04. Very slim. Your odds in Atlantic City are much better than that. But employee referrals, while they only make up 7% of the applicants, make up 40% of the hires. So that's a great place to be. You want to reach out and connect with people, whether it's networking through LinkedIn, or like Mark put in his slide, having that cup of coffee or virtual cup of coffee. So you want to start meeting a few more people and making those connections, especially in those target areas, those target companies. And maybe that could be among your SMART goals. I will reach out to 2 people a week, 3 people a week, something fairly small and manageable, especially when you're getting started. I guess when you get good at it, you can increase it to 5 or 10 people a week. But that could be a SMART goal. And I'm not in corporate any longer, but when I was until a few years ago, we always talked about SMART goals. I had staff that worked for me. I needed to set goals for them for their upcoming year, and then measured them on that at the performance appraisal time. So I'm so glad you reminded us of that as well.
Yeah.
So
it's funny, David, I usually hit that pretty hard, and today I decided to skip over it. So thank you for bringing it up.
Yep, no worries. And let's see. So there's a lot of chat for appreciation. So folks, glad you got something out of it. But if you have a question or two for Mark, you certainly have the opportunity to do so. And we'll turn the microphone on. And by the way, we're going to wrap up the session in just a few minutes. And once it is over, we're actually going to keep the virtual meeting open, even though the PSG meeting is closed or finished for the day. And so it's a way for us to kind of just hang around for the next 30, 45 minutes or so and just talk about whatever it is we want to talk about. So it'd be kind of the equivalent of hanging around the room after the presentation is over. We've been doing that ever since we started virtual meetings, and a lot of people seem to enjoy it. So please feel free to stick around, turn your cameras on, turn your cameras off, participate, just listen, whatever you want to do, and that's fine. So there's one question from Chuck. Should video be part of an individual's marketing plan?
Chuck, do you want to expand on that a little bit? Just so.
Yep, so Chuck, just unmute yourself and go ahead.
Yeah, in the case of wanting to present your position, okay, perhaps along with a resume or conversation, you can follow up with some sort of video that explains your services, okay, or the job position you're looking for.
Well, let me answer and see if I hit on it. If not, maybe I'm off base. I would say, as we all know, video is a powerful channel, right? It's from a content perspective, it's just a powerful way to deliver something. So I think video can play a role a couple of ways. In fact, I'll give you a quick example on that, Chuck, just to bring it to life. the parent company of the New Jersey Devils and the Philadelphia 76ers, and also the Prudential Center in Newark, they're looking for grad students to join the company. And anyway, part of the application process, which I've heard a little bit before, but not as much as this, it was, we don't want to see your resume. We don't want a cover letter. We need a 3-minute video from you. Why should we hire you? So my student who sent me the note said, hey, good news, I made it past round one and now here's the next round. I said, well, think about it. Think about every aspect of this video. I said, they're going to look at this video and they're looking for so many things that don't come through in a resume or a phone call, right? Everything from how you stand, how you present yourself, how you dress, how you look, how you articulate it in front of a camera, how you put together your, for lack of a better word, your 3-minute narrative, right? She had, I think it was less than 3 minutes, 2.5 minutes. So in 2.5 minutes, it was pretty open-ended. It was basically, why should we hire you over every other college graduate? In essence, she had to deliver that narrative a little bit longer than an elevator pitch, but not much longer. And then the last piece of it, Chuck, was I also said they're looking to me for a little bit of creativity, not quirkiness, not goofiness, but creativity. And she goes, what do you mean? I said, here's what I mean. They own the Devils and the Prudential Center. Where do you live? You live in Jersey? Here's what I do. I go up with a friend with my phone and I do this speech, this elevator pitch, standing outside the Prudential Center. Not in my living room, not in my bedroom, like I do all my Zoom calls. I stand in front of their building and I say, you know, I deliver a passionate speech right in front of their building. Anyway, she got the job. She got the job. Not because of what I did nothing. But she would have done it from her bedroom, sitting on her bed or sitting on her couch in some boring room like where I'm sitting now. And it would have just been like every other candidate who applied. But she instead went the extra mile, literally the extra 15 miles, and drove to the Prudential Center and simply did it. And what I loved about it, which I didn't tell her, she did like 4 or 5 takes, sent all of them to me, and we kind of went through it. And I said, you know, take 3. That's the best one. That's the best. That's the one you want to use. So she didn't go and do a one and done and say, this is it. So I do think, Chuck, video plays a big role. And that could be, again, through something like that where they're asking for it, or it could be through something that maybe you potentially proactively create, you know, on your own, whether that's something you may post on a LinkedIn. I'll give you one last example, and I'm not saying this is what I would recommend you guys, but one of my former partners, when I was very active with my agency, he on a weekly basis, and this was pre-pandemic, so I don't know if he's still doing it, he would take his phone with his, and I'm not good with my technical term, guys, but the long selfie stick or whatever. He would walk the streets of New York and he would deliver commentary in 60-second videos on something that happened in the industry that week or that day. So he's literally walking up Fifth Avenue and he's talking about, again, some sort of breaking news or breaking story or breaking this. And I heard from people who just said they loved it. They loved it because it was raw. It was him providing a POV. It was him being kind of genuine. It was him just literally walking down the streets, which he did. So again, I think you could take a different forms, Chuck, for sure. And I do think in today's world, it's powerful. But I think the key is you got to get it right too, right? Like if my student, like I said, didn't go to the Prudential Center, if she decided just to do it in her kitchen, I don't know if she would have gotten the job, but I think that little extra effort helped her.
Thank you. You were right on. I don't know if you remember me, but I had filmed you an interview with Anthony Uber.
Of course, of course. You know video better than anybody.
Exactly. And actually,
you know video better than anyone. A quick note on that, Chuck. Yep.
I tuned in because I find you very inspirational.
I was just going to add, Chuck, real quick, on a quick note on that. I did email Anthony and David the other day. Sorry.
Oops.
David?
Yep. Okay, good. I wasn't sure if Chuck had a comment. You know,
I did, but it was breaking up. I said, I
Oh.
tuned in because I find Mark inspirational. And it helps me because I'm going into a different aspect of my business, not to deal with companies, but individuals, people that want to send me content, and I create a video that's presentable, mostly with individuals that or they want something like memorial of a loved one that passed on, or pet, or something like that. So you are definitely right on, and I thank you.
Great seeing you, Chuck.
And what I did post in chat for folks, a former member of ours, and she's an HR professional now working, her name is Lisa Caste, some of you may remember. She had done her own elevator pitch as a YouTube video. So I posted the link out there, so you're welcome to go look and see that. Maybe that's a tool you can use, a simple way of starting to use video. Jim has a question. Are you working on a new book for job search during the COVID era?
Great question. Thank you.
Public service announcement.
Yeah, thank you very much for that. I did start it. I've written about half of it. It's sitting in a box to the left of me. I'll tell you, when I do those books, and I've written, I think, 5 books, and I shouldn't say this, I apologize to the moms out there, but it just feels like I just spent a year giving birth. They take so much out of me that when I get done, I really don't want to see, my brain is pretty fried. And I ended up getting in a kind of a sequence there where I think in 2020, I did 2. I did the career book, came out early, and then the Gen Z book. Was it 2020 only? Wow, I think it was 2020. Either way, and I just so I've been focusing more on my content lately on. I've been writing articles for like the Newark Star Ledger, by the way, not on careers. I've been writing articles for Sports Business Journal. So I've been focusing more on 1,000-word pieces just to keep my content going, and of course doing my speeches and other stuff. But I will get back to the book some point. It's just, once I commit to it, it literally takes every weekend, every Saturday, every Sunday. My wife gets really frustrated because it consumes my entire life for the entire research, writing, and editing process, which, I try to squeeze it in as quickly as possible. But I could sit here for, like, if we didn't have this today and I was writing a book, I would 6 a.m. till 10 o'clock tonight, I would just be researching and writing all day long. So I think that I agree with you on that. I think there is a post-pandemic book idea out there for sure. So that's one. And then the other one, but it's many years off, Jim. And I sent David a note this morning. Last night I had my 4th grandchild born, who as soon as we're done, I'm racing to Pennsylvania to go see. But and I have 2 twins on the way in May, so I'll have 6. And they're all members of Gen Alpha, which it comes after Gen Z, anyone born after 2012. So I already this morning, my brain's already working on a book on Gen Alpha, which won't be out for a year or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5, because I need to first grow up a little bit and I need to start doing some things on social media. But that will be a book sometime in about a decade that for sure I want to work on and use my at least 6 or maybe more grandchildren to be the inspiration for that book.
Maybe each book will just be named after the grandkids, or maybe name the grandkids after the letter of the age that they're born in. Yeah. This is my grandson, Alpha.
Yeah, exactly.
Certainly writing a book during the COVID era, I guess it does, the thought is maybe you have a little bit of extra time. Obviously you don't. But I don't know that there's a lot of value just considering COVID as a topic as much as pivoting, because that's what we really had to learn to do during COVID. Is things changed quickly, and there's a lot of disruptors in the marketplace. COVID and a pandemic is one of them. So maybe talking more about disruption in general, and for us as job seekers to think about how do we manage disruption really becomes important.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, just those small examples I gave you earlier of, people in Miami and Pittsburgh and New Jersey who are now working for companies thousands of miles away. I mean, did we have that pre-pandemic? A little bit, but now it seems to me it's significant, because I'm hearing it almost daily.
Yeah, companies quickly figured out that they can make it work.
Yeah.
So another question from Pat Monahan. Pat, if you're still on, please unmute yourself.
Yes, excellent presentation. I enjoyed it. I have a question where you were speaking about people who were trying to focus on what they really want to do, get their points across. I was in contact with a gentleman a while back who was a hiring manager, and one of the things he said to me was that the last question he would ask any applicant is, describe yourself in 3 words, and he meant 3 words, not 6 or 8. It seems to me that for people who are not exactly sure what they want to do or focus on, if they would describe themselves in 3 words, that would at least give them some kind of direction. Your thoughts on that idea?
Pat, I agree with you completely. I didn't, bring that up to say it's part of your brand or narrative, but I think that's part of that exercise, right? So as you develop your brand and you develop, as I talked about earlier, 3 messages, I think those 3 words could potentially be subsets of the messages. But I think you're absolutely right. Like thinking through that, right? So, and again, there's many more people on this call who are experts at this compared to me. I'll just go to Alex for an example. But I think like those kind of, for lack of a better word, frequently asked questions. Like I think you should think through all those things, right? So something like, describe yourself in 3 or 4 words. Why are you the best one for the job? Why do you want to work here? All those things. So I agree with you completely on that. And it's interesting that you brought that up. I thought you were going to flip it. So 1, I agree. 2, I think it's something you should think through as part of your so to speak, arsenal of questions I might get asked. But I think definitely as part of your narrative, you hopefully have at least, even if you haven't thought of that question, by thinking through your personal brand, your narrative, those 3 words are kind of floating in your brain. So it's not one of these, I don't know. And then the last I was just going to add, Pat, on the panel the other night, Wednesday night, the recruiter, so not the prospect or the employer, we'll call it, the recruiter said at the very end, from your standpoint, he said, one question I would ask just to kind of close it out is, so you're the candidate. He said, just very simply, was there anything today that you need clarification on, or anything about my experience in my past that I didn't provide enough context on? I just want to make sure before I leave, is there anything that, again, I can add more context to, because I felt like today's conversation was great, but I want to make sure when I leave here, you feel very good about our conversation. I want to make sure there's no unanswered questions. And I thought that was interesting. That came from the recruiter who said that, who just said it's a way kind of as an exclamation point or a period at the end of the interview, just to tidy it up in a way that says, is there anything I did not answer for you today, or is there anything else I can provide you, something like that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Good, thank you. There's also a question from Alan, and that is, what advice do you give your students looking for summer internships?
Oh, Alan, I must have paid you to ask me that question. I didn't tell you this, but again, in real life, I'm a very bad person, just so you know. I do a lot of bad things. So my way of hopefully getting to heaven one day is I just give back all my time to my students. All my time. And at this point in my career, I got interviewed last week for a podcast, and they said, why did you leave your agency and go college? I said, one reason is because at this point in my career, I have a different focus, and my focus is to give back. I had a great 30-year career. Could I do it for another 5 years? Yeah. Could I do it for another 10? Yeah. But at this point, you've got to stand for more than just great agency career, and I made money. I want to stand for more like this guy always gave back. He gave back to the next generation. He gave back to students. And so I spend every single day, I know I'm going too long on this, Alan. I spend every single day researching and sending and making calls. In fact, I was just on a text with somebody right now. Internship opportunities to my students every single day. They tell me I'm the only professor that does it. I literally every day will send 2, 3, 4. Hey, so-and-so, Johnson & Johnson just announced they're looking for their summer internship program. Here's the application. Here's the instructions. Or it'll be, I just spoke to my contact who has an agency, I did this yesterday twice, has an agency in New York. He or she needs interns. When you send an email though, put in the subject line, referred by Mark Beal, this will go this way, you'll be definitely interviewed. So my advice to them, which is a long way to get to that, sorry. My advice to them is starting freshman year, you should be securing internship experience. Don't wait till senior year, that's number 1. 2, you wanna build that resume. 3, internships, like we talked about jobs. You don't have to go to the big city like we all did when, back in the late 80s and early 90s when you had to go to the city. Internships can be remote, they can be virtual, they can be 5 minutes away from your home. They can be, I hate to keep going back to my similar examples, but if you have a passion like many of my students do for social media, well, shoot, you can get social media experience at a charity down the street, at a small business down the street, at this place or that place. It doesn't always have to mean getting on the train and going to the big city. So for lack of a better word, I tell them, 1, they need to get it. 2, I hate to say it this way, but all experience while you're in college is good experience, especially if it's in kind of the world you want to get into. So to me, social media is part of the greater world of marketing. So if you want to get into kind of marketing, then experience in social media, PR, advertising, et cetera, is good. But I think just because I'm not, you know, I'm the lone person in my department who's not a PhD, so they kind of look at me kind of funny, I think. But because I come from the work world, from day one of class, if you get me as an instructor, so right now I'm teaching 70, 85, 35. At Rutgers right now this semester, I'll round it up. I'll say I'm teaching 200 students over 4 different courses, including a graduate course. Every day from day one, I'm feeding them internship information because that's how, to me, how important it is. And if no one else is feeding it to them, I want to make sure at least I'm doing my part to get back.
Great, thank you, Mark. So there's a request for a question, Michael Colber. So Michael, unmute yourself. Ask Mark your question.
Hello, Mark. In my case, I'm trying in essence to rebrand myself because I spent the last 10, 12 years working in areas that have become obsolete. And I've also learned that maybe when you get to be over 50 like I am, and I'm a good bit beyond that, that the gig economy is a better place to be because it seems like they use your knowledge till they don't need it anymore. So my question is, if I'm transitioning from something like I've been doing and teaching myself how to develop a website, but I'm not doing it through a school or getting a certification, I'm doing it by reading books and things of that sort. Is it important for me to have my own website as a way to demonstrate, okay, I didn't do this to get paid for, but this is what I can do? And I'm actually going to do a website for my wife's ESL tutoring business, which is really just her. And I'm going to obviously copyright that so people know it was written by me. But will that be part of my brand then at that point?
Yeah, so Michael, quick question for you. Is the new kind of place you're going in this gig economy to develop websites for individuals, small businesses and others? Is that what you?
I want to gear myself to small businesses who don't have the ability to do these things by themselves. Because I like working with clients, I like helping them write their specifications and figuring out, you know, what they need to best serve their needs. I enjoy that as much as I do actually doing, you know, the work. So. Yeah,
I was just going to say, so if the focus is, for lack of a better word, website design and development for small business or whatever, you know, and David will be the first to tell you. The proof in the pudding there is, well, what's this guy's website look like, right? Or what are examples? Because first thing I'm going to say is, so you're spot on, but the first thing I'm going to say is, oh, have you done a website for any other small business? And it doesn't matter how small. It doesn't matter what, whether it's your wife, your sister, your brother. It doesn't matter who. They're just going to want to see your design, your look, your feel, your user friendly. And again, David will comment more on this. So to me, when it comes to websites, to me, the proof is, whether it's your site specifically or it's a site, I think even, as much for a customer, a client, I think that's the proof, because they go to that and wow, look good, like the clean look, like the design, very user friendly, this, that. Again, David will have more commentary, but in that particular area, I would think the proof is in exactly showing them what you've done for others.
Yeah, I agree. It's having a portfolio, because I know as I meet my small business clients, they may ask for referrals or see the work that we've done. So it's great to have that. No reason why you have to let people know your wife's website is your wife's. Just it's a client. No reason to start up small. And the broad concept, should I have a website? I think everybody should have a website. This is a branding discussion. And when you get Googled, and hiring managers are going to Google job seekers, your website comes up. Now, if you're not a web designer, it's going to talk more about your work, your brand, your methodology, your strategy, all that kind of stuff. Talk about you professionally. And of course, if you're in the IT world, it just supports, that specific role. So yeah, the short answer is yes, have a website. Thank you. We do have a question from Jim. Jim wrote, if you have no connections at a target company or company to which you have applied online, how do you make contact with them?
Jim, great question. It comes up often.
I can ask that also. Like, how do you network into the company also, if I could add that to my question? How do you network into that kind of a company?
Yeah, no, great question. Yeah, great question, Jim. This comes up a lot, and I'll give real examples. And I know I'm making it sound a lot easier than it is. I know this is not easy, guys. So even though I'm making it sound easy, I know it requires what I call is good old-fashioned detective work. That's what I call it, or research work, I guess you could say. So I can give you 50 examples. I'll give you one just to start, and then we'll go from there. I got a call from someone who was involved in professional sports marketing. They worked for the Arizona Diamondbacks. They were in a position where they were in what's called corporate partnerships. In essence, their job was to make sure all the sponsors of the Arizona Diamondbacks were happy with their sponsorship of the team, from their signage to this to that. He wanted to move back to the East Coast area, called me up, said, hey, my time with the Diamondbacks is ending here. I'm starting to look for jobs. I see that Geico on the sponsor side is looking for someone who has worked in sponsorships and partnerships, because they have partnerships with a variety of teams and leagues. And I'd really like, and do you know anyone? My knee-jerk reaction, Jim, was, I don't know anyone at Geico. Let me check on LinkedIn. No, I don't know anyone. But then I gave it a second, which sometimes we got to not motivate isn't the word, but give our folks in our network a little bit of time. And I said, but if I'm right, I know Geico's based in Northern Virginia near McLean. And if they're based in Northern Virginia near McLean, there's probably a good chance that they are a sponsor of that team called the Washington football team. And as we're on the phone, I'm like, bring it up. Sure enough. I said, well, my friend at the Washington football team happens to be the head of corporate sponsorships and partnerships. Let me text him right now. Text him while we're on the phone. This all took 60 seconds, by the way. Hey, Christian, I got somebody looking to go like Geico. I presume you know them? Know them. He goes, I talk to them daily. I know exactly who they are. I know who runs that. I know who his boss would be. Within 24 hours, within an hour, my guy's resume is Arizona, went to my guy at the Washington team, went to Geico. Within about 2 days, they had him on a plane, flew him to Washington to interview for the job. Within about a week, he had the job. Now, again, I'm making that sound real easy, Jim. I know it doesn't always work that way, but all I'm saying is I always say this. We all need to find someone who knows 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 someone at that place. It may not be me. It may not be David. It may not be anyone on this call. But David might know somebody who actually might know somebody. So your follow-up to that be like, well, how are they going to call my behalf if they don't really know me? They're really friends with David. Blah, blah, blah. It's not so much that per se. It's just leveraging that relationship to potentially at least get your resume in front of somebody, meet at the same time as you applied formally to the role. It's just, so to me, that's how to do it. But hopefully, in the best case scenario, it's a 1 degree separation. So in the case of Arizona, right, my guy's in Arizona. He knows me. He doesn't know the guy at the football team, but I vouch for him with the football team. I say, hey, this guy's great. This guy's really good. Please go to your contact at Geico and just get on the resume and say, if you feel comfortable, that he'd be worth interviewing. And sure enough, like I said, they flew him from Arizona to DC and then interviewed him. He got the job. So hopefully that helps a little bit. Like I said, a little bit of research, a little bit of detective work, but hopefully there can be that, unlike Kevin Bacon in 6 degrees, maybe it's just that 1 or 2 degrees.
It does help. Thanks, Mark.
Yep. And by the way, I have worked with Kevin Bacon quite a bit, and one of the greatest people I've ever worked with in my marketing campaigns. He had to do what's called a 7-hour, which is crazy, satellite media tour. So starting at 3 a.m. in LA for 7 hours, he conducted television after television interview. He took 1 5-minute bathroom break. Other than that, the guy just plowed through it. No agents, no posse, just showed up by himself and worked for 7 hours.
Yeah, and remember the statistic, referrals make up 7% of applicants, but 40% of hires. That's from that University of Michigan study that Mark found. So yeah, it's great to network your way in or find your way in. You know, Mark mentioned early in his presentation, sometimes you'll reach out to someone and in your conversation, you'll say, oh, David Schuckman referred me, Mark Beal referred me. That's your way in. You're leveraging the political currency or corporate currency that your own contacts have with their contacts. All right, so good. Well, Mark, we've reached the end of our program for today. So again, thank you so much, Mark. You've been such a wonderful friend and supporter of the group, certainly, and I always have an enjoyable time whenever I have the chance to speak with you as well. Congratulations on your grandson and upcoming grandchildren, so that sounds exciting. And so as we wrap up, folks, just want to let you know what we've got coming over the next couple of weeks. Next week, we will be right back here virtually. And we will be virtual for the next few months. There's not exact ETA just yet. But next week is February 19th. Absolutely, Abby Kohut will be here. And wonderful program called How to Win the Hearts and Minds of Recruiters. It seems to have been becoming harder and harder to work with recruiters. Their job is harder. So how do you win the hearts and minds of recruiters? Abby will tell us next week. The following week, a little bit of a shift. It'll be February 26th. Melanie Hazim will be here. She's been here before. Avoid getting scammed. And I think that's a wonderful topic, very timely considering how much time we are spending online and for the opportunities that people are trying to take advantage of that. So that's more of a public service announcement more than direct job hunting. I just thought it'd be a great topic for us since we're spending so much time online. Other groups in the area, of course, are continuing to meet virtually, which is terrific. We've got tomorrow morning, the Breakfast Club of New Jersey. You can find them at thebreakfastclubnj.com, thebreakfastclubnj.com. Abby Kohut will be presenting virtually your 2021 career, becoming a victor rather than a victim. So Abby is certainly busy this week and this month. So that's what Abby will be presenting. That's tomorrow at 8 o'clock in the morning, thebreakfastclubnj.com. New Jersey Job Seekers does meet virtually, and they have been for months now, of course, Tuesdays at 7:30 in the evening. And you'll always find the Zoom or GoToMeeting link in the PSG of Mercer County LinkedIn group, but it's always an open, free forum discussion. I was the facilitator this past Tuesday, and it was good fun. PSG of Central New Jersey, they meet on Mondays at 10:30 in the morning. So you can check out their brand new website, psgcnj.biz, psgcnj.biz. And PSG of Morris County meets on Wednesdays at 9:30 in the morning. You can check them out on their website, psgmc.org, psgmc.org. So we will be making the chat available online. It will be in our website, which is psgofmercercounty.org. Look on the link on the upper right side called Meeting Presentation Documents. And as an example, this is a meeting, and all of our presentation documents are going to be in that link. And we have almost all of our meetings and presentation documents since late 2013, a wealth of information that's there for you. So once again, thank you, Mark. We'll be looking to see you virtually as soon as we can, but do appreciate this wonderful presentation. Promoting your brand, getting yourself and differentiating yourself from others is extremely important and can be the differentiator between any one of us and our competition, which is all the other job seekers. So Mark, thank you so much.
David, thank you. As I said, I'm always honored to be invited to do this. But I'm more inspired by the time I leave, so really appreciate it, and thank you. And I am going to race out now and go to Pennsylvania, so I'm going to leave everybody. Have a wonderful week.
Have fun with that. I'm sure that's very special. And I still owe you that iFly information. I'll send that to you as well.
All right. Thank you. Take care.
So thank you. So everyone else, we hope and look forward to seeing you all next week or anywhere virtually. But until then, I'll simply say goodbye, everybody.